right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us. Another episode coming to you live of Catching Up with Jacob. And here he is. He's not too far, but he's also not too close. Jacob Prasch.
Here we are. Thank you so much for joining us here on Catching Up with Jacob. But the real catching up is going to be our pezzo when we're caught up and we get out of this mess. The sooner the better.
Welcome, Jacob. God bless you, brother. And David Lister, not too far from where you are, Jacob.
Yep, down the hall. It's good to be here with you, Marco.
Welcome, David. And Jay, not too far from my house. Jay, down on the west side.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Great, Jay. Good to see you. And down under, David. How are you, Davey?
Doing good, thanks. Doing good.
All right. Much to celebrate down in Victoria, but anyway, we'll talk about that later. A couple of things to remind you guys. Well, first of all, welcome everyone who's watching live, those who watch later. So blessed to have you on, and we love you and thank the Lord for you. And we're here with these men to talk about the subjects at hand, what's going on in the world, and catching up with Jacob as well, what's going on in the rest of the world from a biblical perspective. And you're probably watching on YouTube, on Facebook, on Vimeo, on Telegram, on Rumble, of course, Memorial TV, memorial.tv, memorialtv.org, RTN. Did I mention Telegram? I might have done it. And we want to make sure that those who are watching live can make sure you guys ask the questions. You have to go to Rumble. So if you want to go ask the questions, you want to go to Rumble, and we'll be asking Jacob and David questions on backstage. So go to Rumble, ask those questions there. Of course, we will not be on YouTube and Facebook at that time. So you're going to have to jump over to the other platforms. So very quick reference to some of the places Jacob's going to be. Jacob, you got a UK conference coming up in November. Where else are you going to be? Very quickly.
Fortunately, the UK conference is completely sold out. We did manage with Beryl's negotiation to get some extra rooms when we sold out, but now those are gone. So essentially, we're filled out, and for people of Britain and Wales, there's still people contacting us. The most Beryl can do is put you on a waiting list. It's just completely filled out. My apologies, first of all, to those who are at Fellowship Bible Chapel in Ohio. I've had some medical problems with my legs. I've had to keep my feet elevated and take some medications with undesirable side effects. And hence, we had to cancel or postpone that visit to Fellowship Bible Chapel, but we are very sorry. It's, of course, the 3rd year anniversary since Pastor Steve Mitchell went to be with the Lord. However, the work of Moriel in India that he helped establish, the orphanage, is absolutely thriving. So although he's with the Lord, his legacy lives on. On the 14th and 15th of October, the 14th, I'll be at the Church of the Open Door, our affiliate in New York, and the 15th, I will be in Baltimore. In New York, it'll be at 7 p.m., details on the internet, 3rd Avenue and 7th Street in the East Village. And in Baltimore on the 15th, that'll be from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. The 2nd of November, I'll be in Newton Abbey near Belfast with Pastor Stephen Tremble, 7 p.m. On the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I'll be in Belfast at on Orangefield Crescent at Agape Christian Fellowship with Pastor Marty Foster. Details on the internet, and we'll be posting Republic of Ireland, Roscommon, a meeting in Boylan, County Roscommon, Monday the 6th. That's about it for me. All these details will be on the Moriel website on the itinerary page. Once again, our apologies to the brethren in Ohio. Just certain things have happened and beyond our control, really, some of it. So our apologies.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you so much. And what a problem to have, but it's a good problem to have at the UK conference. Not desiring that you would have no room, but it's a good problem that people want to come. You open up more rooms, and I guarantee if you open up more rooms, they'll probably be sold out pretty quickly. So that's the nature of it. So
waiting list.
Yeah. So just everybody to know, hey, if there's any room, get a hold of Beryl, but it's just a waiting list at this moment. So but we do thank you for the support, and we do thank those who are coming. At the same time, David Lister, Davey, and I will be in Australia visiting the brethren and going through not only Australia, but New Zealand coming up in November, and more details to come, but that's coming up very, very, very fast. What is the email that they can contact us, Davey?
Yep, just email ccodnzaus@gmail.com.
Yeah, CCOD email, and we'll get a hold of that, and we'll get an answer for you. So we appreciate you, and looking forward to seeing the believers in Australia and New Zealand. It's been so wonderful to know them for so long and get a chance to meet them now. So that's going to be wonderful. David Lister and I, and visiting some churches there, and more information to come. I want to speed this up, so I want to make sure that you know that there's podcasts. But we won't go through the schedule on the podcast. We've got time constraint today, so I want to make sure we get into it. All right, gentlemen, let's catch up. Jacob, we won't be talking about Senator Feinstein going to getting her eternal reward. Although you may comment on it, she won't be able to stay in office anymore. She is gone. She has gone to that place. And so now the Democrats have to replace her. We won't be talking about, of course, the flooding in New York. They call him Floodcopolis. You're going to be there pretty soon, so maybe you can let us know what's going on there. And Kathy Hochul with her big problems there, calling for a state of emergency. And we won't be talking about I don't know how to put it, Generation Z, liberal Generation Z kids going to McCarthy's office and demanding climate action, and that the government won't be shut down because they need abortions, they need climate actions. The world is going to end in less than 10 years. This is what they've been told. There's no polar bears anymore, or the polar bears are drowning. Well, this is all happening at the same time. Any comments on that, Jacob? Then we'll go to David real quick on the stuff that we just don't have the time to talk about, but I think they're worthy to mention.
It's a testimony of the bad educational system, which is not teaching science. Polar bears are very good swimmers. They don't drown. You know.
I don't mean to make fun of people. I mean, my kids are Generation Z, but
I know.
They know that. Yeah, they know that.
I know. We have a school system that indoctrinates young people instead of teaching them how to think, but indoctrinate them what to think. This is the result of it. You know, they're saying things that are scientifically devoid of any credibility. Why with the, and again, I don't advocate any kind of extramarital or premarital sex, but why with the availability of birth control of today would you use abortion as a form of birth control? It's an invasive procedure. I mean, it's just bad science, bad health science, but they've been indoctrinated. They don't know how to think. They're told what to believe. That's what they believe. 9 years. The world's got less than 9 years or something like that. Unbelievable. Just bad science.
Yeah. And of course, Feinstein gonna go with all the other famous Democrats are going.
Yeah, well, she was an enemy of the Second Amendment. She was a rather despicable pro-abortion activist, of course, but I will never forget her malperformance during the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings. Her position was just so unfair and unbalanced. I'm referring to a woman as a victim when nothing had actually been proven.
That's right.
She was an unprincipled political hack, and I don't like to see anybody die without Christ, and I don't like to see a Jew die without their own Messiah. But as far as we know, she did. I did not have a high regard for that woman politically or otherwise. But Newsom is going to replace her with somebody who's going to be a black woman. Notice, just like Biden, just like Ketanji Brown, just like Harris, you don't appoint somebody on the basis of experience or ability. You appoint them on the basis of race and gender. The very things that they claim to be against, they are themselves sexist and racist. The very things they claim to be against, they are themselves. To appoint somebody on the basis of gender or skin color is just as despicable as not appointing somebody because of their race or skin color. Those things should not be considerations. It should be qualification, it should be experience, it should be personal integrity. But if anybody is going to be appointed by Newsom, you can be sure they're not going to have any of those virtues.
No integrity.
Considering that Newsom's definition of woman could mean a transsexual man, you can't really trust that it's going to be a woman that he's going to appoint.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
He can appoint himself lawfully. So, he wants to step up. So if he steps out of the governor's chair, then that would alleviate all of the bad things happening there from his around his neck, so to speak.
Yeah.
His political dilemma is they have the primaries for the Senate coming up in California, and it will give an automatic automatic advantage as an incumbent if he appoints somebody who's running. If he appoints somebody who's going to be a candidate in the primaries, it's going to give them an electoral advantage as the incumbent. So that's his dilemma politically, but that's his problem.
That is his problem.
11% of all senators have been appointed, and 95% of them win when they run for election. So you can see it's a very powerful leg up.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's get started on some of the other things that need to be addressed. And that's one of them. The first one is up north from here to our neighbors to the north, Canadian government. Jacob, Nazigate. There's no other words of putting it. Parliament invited a 90-year-old Nazi, Waffen SS soldier. His name is Jaroslav Hunka. And the Speaker of the House of Commons asked to be given a standing ovation, which of course this was because Volodymyr Zelensky was there and Trudeau was there, and they gave him a standing ovation to a known Nazi. He shot Jews in mass graves, well known. Now, thank God that somebody spoke up about it. We'll talk about him in a moment. But now the pressure, the Speaker of the House resigns. Trudeau is calling it Russia misinformation. I wonder if he considered this Russia misinformation. But there's a lot of problems to the north of us in Canada. Jacob Prash.
First of all, he should have resigned, but he's also a fall guy. They're just shouldering onto him the full responsibility for what happened.
Yeah, he falls on the sword.
It's Trudeau and his party are responsible. It's not just the speaker, although I agree he should have resigned. What's really disturbing is the person who exposed it, a British journalist, was arrested Gestapo style for exposing it.
Unbelievable.
This is what you saw in California when somebody made a film exposing illegal abortions and the trafficking in human body parts. He exposed the crime and he was arrested for doing it and prosecuted by Harris when she was state attorney general. This is a war against free speech. It's a war against the First Amendment in America, but you see it happening in Britain and you see it happening in Canada. A war against free speech. They're criminalizing free speech. Even if you expose a crime or a moral outrage, they'll arrest you for it because you've said something we don't like. What's the difference between Ping and Biden and China and
Trudeau?
Well, there's no difference. Yeah. And this is a Tory government in Britain that did it. This is a conservative government that did it. What good is a conservative government if it's not conservative?
Just imagine if Labor was in there, and they would just speed up the whole thing to destruction. But back to the Canadian thing, Jacob. This is ridiculous. Zelensky's a Jew. A standing ovation to a well-known soldier. It's not like he's one of the last. He's one of the last ones. So he's there, standing ovation. Nobody bats an eye. Shot Jews in mass graves. This is. People have to be outraged, and they did it on Yom Kippur. Yom
Kippur. Well, does anybody think that people like Schumer or Feinstein or Blumenthal or any of these Jews in the Democratic Party care about the Jewish people or about Israel?
Not one bit. Not one bit.
How would you be in a party with Olmert or Tliab or these open Jew haters if you cared about those Jewish people? They don't. Yeah. Zelensky's a Jew the way Schumer's a Jew.
Yeah, they don't care. Yeah. David Lister.
Soros is a Jew.
There you go.
Oh, he's Jewish, but he's not a Jew.
Yeah. David Lister, thoughts on that Nazigate?
Well, I think that this man is now going to be, Poland has asked for him to be extradited. Justice. Yep. That's the only good thing I see that can come out of it. But now that Poland is not giving Ukraine any more weapons, he may not see a day of justice. The only thing for us is that he will see justice when he leaves this earth.
Very true. Now, Trudeau's got issues, got G20 issues that happened a month ago. Indian issues, obviously, he's been hiding terrorists in Canada that he was very upset about. Issues at the UN when he spoke there recently. The March for Children that's promoted by Muslims there. Obviously, there's some Christian groups involved in it too. Calls for his resignations are growing louder and louder. Jacob Pratt, you see him stepping down?
If he's forced to, but only if he is forced to.
Okay.
The Canadian people have a problem. They have the same problem you have in Britain and to a large degree in the United States. The political right or the conservatives are not conservative. It's like what just happened in Georgia this week. Instead of wanting to, the member of the state Senate who wanted to bring an impeachment charge against Willis, the judge going after Trump with a political motive, the Senate Republican caucus in Georgia voted to suspend him, a Republican senator, because he wanted to impeach this politicized judge, this political Willis. That's the Republican Party. Well, Britain, the Conservative Party is the same. It's a joke. And in Canada, there's no political opposition.
Yeah.
The right is not right. They're the equivalent of rhinos. Canadian rhinos, you got British rhinos, you got American. They're all the same.
Yeah, Pollier talks a big game, but I don't know, man. I think I don't think there's anything that they can do up there. Now let's go back to the journalist in the UK. His name is Warren Fortune. He dug all this stuff up. I mean, I applaud him for doing what a journalist ought to do. Can you imagine that? A journalist doing what they're supposed to be doing? This is what a world. He's independent, of course. He doesn't work for the BBC. He couldn't work there. And he looked up, went to the archives, found that he shot Jews in mass graves, which is incredibly insulting to any Jew to actually have a standing ovation by presidents, by prime ministers and presidents of a country. After exposing it, he was on a Skype call. The British police bust in. He's released on charges, but this is the charge, Jacob, not misinformation, malinformation. Can you explain the difference?
Yeah, malinformation is something where there is no criminal culpability. You've just said something we don't like, so we're going to criminalize it for a political motive. And again, an attack on democracy, an attack on free speech. It's what you've got. Journalists, mainstream media journalists can lie, can slander, can engage in open defamation, can engage in political propaganda, editorialize the news along the lines of bias. But if somebody does actual journalism, investigative journalism, and researches and exposes something, they have to be criminally prosecuted. This is what's happening. It's, again, decline of democracy.
Intimidation, Jacob, or are they really going after him?
No, they're trying to set a precedent to scare other journalists from not speaking out, certainly.
Same thing here in the States. You can't really speak out against anything. Yeah. In fact, there is an independent journalist, Owen Schroeder, who's going to face 60 days in jail because he just happened to be at the Capitol or in D.C. on January 6th. Yes. So just happened to be there speaking about it on his own podcast. That he didn't.
What happened in Ottawa, Canada, with the truck protest is the exact equivalent of what happened January 6th, a politically motivated prosecution of people who are really not breaking the law, at least certainly nothing felonious. The only one who did something that should be indicted for was that cop who shot that unarmed woman veteran.
That's right. Jacob, what does this mean, the obvious overreach of the government, weaponizing the different alphabet agencies and going after citizens, going after journalists? What does it mean for Christians in these countries? I mean, we've talked about it before, but let's encapsulate it and really break it, put it in real short terms, exactly what does this mean? What are we seeing? Not only the evaporation of democracy for free speech, but what does it mean for Christians?
Well, we've already seen what it means for Christians. I'm no advocate of Roman Catholicism, theologically or otherwise. But we know what the Justice Department in America under Garland has done, calling conservative Catholics, traditional Catholics, basically a terrorist threat. We've seen Christian parents being investigated by the FBI or put on an FBI watch list for speaking out at school board meetings about the indoctrination of children and the use of pornographic materials in taxpayer-funded education, and the FBI going after them. We know what it means for Christians. Satan is the god of this world. His ultimate target is not the political left. They are just interim. His ultimate target is to stop the preaching of the gospel and to stop the
Amen.
word of God from being proclaimed. That
Very
is his
true.
ultimate aim, and that's what will happen.
No, you're absolutely 100% right. And
Well, he tried to do it.
yeah, you're 100% right, Jacob. That is ultimately at the heart
Yeah.
of going after free speech. Jay, you've seen this in the States with gospel preachers on the streets and preachers that go and preachers of righteousness that preach the gospel. And what do they get when they speak out against sins of the nation, the sins of society?
They get legal troubles. They get fines. They go to prison. There's a perfect example of a legal immigrant came over. I think we saw the story where I think it was Danish, and he came over to preach the gospel, was arrested. He was accused by ICE of all these crimes, spent 400 days in prison. So
unbelievable.
That's your reward, and that's the reward. That's the reward we were told we were going to get.
No, Jesus told us that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But that is exactly what governments and you've seen it more the last 100 years, the last 50 years, the last 20 years, the last 10 years, the last 5 years. It's just increasing, and to a point where now, I mean, we're looking at if Trudeau steps down, that would be a great thing for Canadians, in my opinion. But also, when another leader steps down, is a great news for Australian too. We're gonna need Davey for this one. Davey, I don't see a party hat. I don't see some confetti, but you have to have it.
Wait.
Party hat here.
I knew he did.
The departure. Yeah, the departure of. Oh, there it is. The departure of COVID tyrant Dan, right? Dan Andrews in Victoria has officially resigned after 9 tribulational years, you would call it. Yep. Longest tenure. I didn't know this. The longest tenure of any premier in history for Victoria. Now he's going to be replaced by a left Jacinta Allen. You can tell us a little bit about her if you know, from Labour Party. But for now, don't want to rain on their parade. He steps down, tells a little bit more corruption charges, China connection, all kinds of things, isn't there?
Yeah, there's so much coming against him. But the thing is, look, he's totally bankrupt us as a state too. So there's no money left. His Commonwealth Games fiasco has just been a nightmare. His railway linking Melbourne Central to the airport.
Wow.
All the projects he's got, none of them are finished. They've all cost way much more than what they were supposed to. Just in misappropriation of funds has just been phenomenal. The thing with me is he should have gone years ago. As soon as he did that secret deal with China, he's the most tremendous person we've ever had. We're all kind of, I don't know anyone who's sad to see him go except for the media, and it was really hard to stomach their comments. But at the moment we're just kind of happy. I do think his power base will be broken a little bit, even though Jacinta, she's very left leaning and all the rest of it. She's not going to have the power base that Andrews had, at least not yet. So we may get a little bit of a reprieve, hopefully.
Wow. Again, what Andrews did with the COVID protesters in Melbourne.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
The Australian equivalent of January 6th and of what happened in Ottawa with the trucks.
Yeah.
Have the Australian version in Melbourne. You have what happened in Ottawa and you have what happened in Washington. But it's all the same. It's all the same agenda.
Yep.
Yeah, these guys are definitely connected to the WEF. Go ahead, Davey.
Oh, yeah, what he's done to parents here too, basically, is shocking. Like the parents have no rights over their kids now. It's all, the way he mistreated women at that when they were speaking out against the indoctrination in kinders with the drag queens and all the rest of it.
Yes.
He's pro-LGBTQ plus. He's pro-trans. He's a bad smell that we can't wait to be totally rid of. We just hope he doesn't resurface.
Yeah, I mean, he's very anti-Christian. He's made very much comments against believers, against Christians. The lockdown measures were incredible. I remember what he did to that tennis player, Novak Djokovic. wouldn't let him in. You know, I mean, to play in the Melbourne tournament, Australian Open. I think it's in Melbourne, isn't it?
Held in Melbourne. Yes.
Yeah. So this atrocious policies, very left leaning, but I guess question for either Jacob or David. You know, even Jake can say things like, why did they always pick left leaning? I mean, not just left leaning, but extreme left leaning. Is that it's our Victoria pretty left leaning?
Yes, very much so, and especially Melbourne. Melbourne, unfortunately, the Greens are gaining momentum there, which is probably worse. But this is how Dan Andrews got into power too. The deals he brokered, you know, with people like the Greens and that. It was the only way he kept his power the last time.
Wow.
Well, the hand of God continued to be against him. Obviously, as a Christian, I hope he would get saved, but if he doesn't, I wish him nothing but bad. He's an evil man.
He is a very evil man. He's very open about his evil, especially against Christians who criticized him. There's a group of Christians that criticized him, and he went really hard against them, basically making an LGBT thing, that people were hateful against LGBT and drag queens and all that stuff. So I guess 1,000 cans of beers, I don't promote drinking, but 1,000 cans of beers were donated to celebrate, I guess, because it's this infamous quote about, you know, drinking beers at the pubs and all that stuff. Plus, he's got a little history of being a little tipsy, right, Davey?
Yes, yeah. He got done for drunk driving a while ago. Although, yeah, this shows you what kind of a man he is. Who do you blame? This is one thing I learned off Dan Andrews. If you get caught drunk driving, it's your wife's fault. Blame the wife. Driving.
What a guy!
Yep.
What a guy! Blame your wife. Blame Christians. Blame your wife. Blame everybody. But just cuddle up to China like Trudeau, right? Cuddle up to China. Don't criticize China. Get the deals done. I guess another guy that's been doing the same thing, and obviously from Dan to another dictator, as it were, Zelensky, cooking up some things with Marina Abramovich. What's going on there, Jay?
So she has been placed as the Ukrainian ambassador to rebuild all the schools in Ukraine.
You could not have picked the worst person to do this.
David and I were kind of joking, you know, for the most part, history shows us that people like Marina, they have gingerbread houses and kids come and eat the house and then she cooks them. But that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that other ministries have picked up on Marina Abramovich and have done exposés, and YouTube just recently decided to take them down.
Oh.
So they're starting to feel that sting of the social media giant doesn't like it when you talk about people that they want to push forward.
Ambassador to the Ukraine, though. I mean, really?
Ambassador. I don't know how performance art and being a witch, a Crowleyan Satanist witch makes you necessarily equipped to be a children's ambassador to rebuild schools, but I guess if you're going to make a bunch of McMartin schools, with underground tunnels, that does qualify at that point.
I mean, they should have just drug up Blavatsky and just made her, the chief of education or something like that.
Yes.
Jacob, your thoughts? I mean, this is not hyperbole. She is a witch, spirit cooking, all that stuff.
Witch, but also is indicative of the
very connected to the Clintons,
making Zelensky to be a Churchillian figure when he's nothing more than a lesser of two evils.
Oh man, yeah, it's she calls it basically spirit cooking, which is basically some kind of ritual. But we had a picture of her next to Jacob's Rothschild, and she's right in front of a picture of a very famous picture by Thomas Lawrence, Satan summoning his legions from the late 1700s, indicative of
how's that?
I mean, what kind? I mean, pick another painting. Pick any painting except that one. I mean, do you have to pick them? What's that?
That sends a signal. They picked that picture deliberately.
No, absolutely. No.
Well, the word says that at some point it's going to be revealed, and the whole earth will see this, Satan, and go, this is the man that caused all this trouble.
Yeah.
And you look at his followers like Rockefeller, like Abramovich, and you get that sense. These are the people that are causing all the issues in the world. These are the people that are sacrificing children, allegedly.
Right. Total demonic. I mean, now they made a deal with, so let's tie this in together, because people could say, well, that's just the spiritual world. What is it? Who cares? That's them. That's the Satanists. But they made a deal with BlackRock, both Zelensky and Abramovich, to help rebuild Ukraine. Obviously, Abramovich has a role to play here. Now, where's this money coming from? The BlackRock money. I mean, of course, Larry Fink doesn't have it in his pocket. It's not coming out of Obama's pocket. It's not coming out of Biden's side pocket either. This is, of course, all the money that has been funneled through, right, in order to rebuild Ukraine. It's going right back to Ukraine. It's like a recycling center. And, of course, of all people, they pick Penny Pritzker, the special representative to handle the economic rebuilding of Ukraine. So Pritzker, Abramovich, BlackRock, Larry Fink, which is a well-known for his left-leaning and especially anti-Christian campaigns. Zelensky, Nazism. I mean, it's really a house of cards that it was been built by Satan. But let's talk about that connection. Who is Penny Pritzker?
Well,
She is tied to. Yep.
Her brother's the governor. What does that tell you? Look at the governor of Illinois. What is he? Pro-crime, anti-American, anti-Judeo-Christian. What is Pritzker?
Penny Pritzker is a sister of Governor Pritzker, who was, I think, what do they do? Not the Hilton. It's not the Hiltons. It's a Hyatt, or which one is
the Hyatt?
Okay, yeah. So all their money came because of the Hyatt, and they're heirs of the Pritzker heir and all that stuff. But they're also involved in some nefarious, interesting things, right, Jay?
Yeah, they are the number one family and financier of transgendering children. That is their passion in life.
I think
one of them is transgender, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the brothers, actually, Jennifer. It's known Jennifer now. Not going to show a picture. Let's just put it this way. If you think of me in a wig, that's probably how he looks like now. Just not a good transition. Put it that way. Not a good transition.
So if you put the pieces together,
yes,
one person is going to transition to the children in Ukraine. The second one will indoctrinate them into the occult, and the third will make them, militarized.
Wow!
So that's a scary army right there.
Billions. I mean, this is billions of dollars going in there, and she's been a big Penny, big time promoter of I think it's called synthetic sexual identity, SSI. Synthetic sexual identity. You can basically kind of think about that. Synthetic sexual identity. You can be whatever you want. It's all synthetic. You could be this, you could be that, you can transition. Almost sounds like a plastic thing, but it's kind of like the same idea. And big donors for the Obamas, big donors for the Bidens, big donors. I mean, she was in Obama's U.S. Commerce nominee for finance. And she had a lot of problems with banks. She had a lot of problems with offshore accounts. There's just some big problems there with Penny. And yet I would imagine some of this money is going to end up in some coffers of Democratic parties pretty soon down the line, this is Biden's pick, of course, U.S. representative for economic recovery of Ukraine. So there you have it. Jay, you put it well together. So, Jacob, the impeachment inquiries, kicks off today. No media coverage whatsoever. Only independent journalists who might end up in jail by doing this. They kicked off today. No MSNBC, no CNN, none of the big three networks. They all backed out of it. By the way, this is only the fourth impeachment inquiry ever in U.S. history. You would think they would want to be there.
Well, what do you expect from mainstream media? Mainstream media does not really exist in terms of news. It's only there for purposes of politically biased presentation of the news along the line of their own prejudices and persuasions. They're not valid journalists in any sense of the word. They editorialize the news. They do not report it. We all know that that's the case, and it's also true of mainstream social media. The only bright star, and Fox is gone. Fox has shot itself. Fox has lost whatever integrity it had. It's gone. Maybe a few decent people still associated with it, and thank God that Lachlan, instead of Murdoch's other son, got Murdoch's job.
Yeah.
But that would have made it even worse. But when you've got people like Rhino on your board, forget Fox. So it's all gone. They're trying to sue Newsmax out of existence, of course. They're going after One America if they can. They'll do anything they can to silence all opposition. The only bright spot, again, is that their ratings and viewership consistently decline. They're losing money. They're losing revenue. That is the only good thing. There's still enough sensible people to know that they're being lied to, and so they're going elsewhere for their news. That is the only bright spot. But in the long term, we know that they'll try to silence that as well as they have in China. They'll shut down the independent servers as they have in China eventually, if they can do that. They'll try to do that.
Yeah, a very different, in stark contrast to what they did to Trump in 2019 with every 20. I mean, it was, I hated watching anything to do with TV, period. But during that time, I hated it even more because that's all you heard. That's all you saw. That's all they cared about was the coverage of the impeachment hearings for Trump. So,
if those who read the New York Slimes or those who read the Washington Compost, people like that, they have no discernment. They must have a subhuman level of intelligence. Even people who of a left-wing persuasion ideologically can see the bias. But it doesn't matter to them. It just shows that most people are going to believe what they want to believe instead of what the facts dictate. That's just the way it is. And I believe that's part of a delusion, a spiritual delusion.
No, you're absolutely right. Now, one senator actually has issued an ultimatum to the Biden administration, and of course, the government shutdown's coming up. Withdraw Ukraine's billions or face government shutdown. This is Rand Paul. Yeah. Do you think there's any leverage there, Jake? I mean, I know government shut. I think it's one more day. I think they shut it down after today or something like that. I forget how many days we had left, but obviously, the less government, the better. I don't think we're going to miss the government shutdown or anything like that. They continue to fund all the other stuff, and they want money to Ukraine go regardless of the shutdown or not. But any leverage there?
Minimum. Let's look at this. Let's look at the Republican caucus. Okay, like Senator Cruz, Senator Rand Paul is a conservative, or actually he's a conservative/libertarian. Yes. He's one of the few decent people in the Senate, one of the few of either party. Just last week, 29 Republican senators voted to approve the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who was outspokenly woke, who has made statements that I would interpret as racist, as would many people, but he's outspokenly woke, and 29 worthless garbage U.S. senators, all Republican, voted for him. Now, Rand Paul is one who didn't. Ted Cruz is one who didn't. Only 11 Republican senators didn't. There is not a strong enough conservative contingent within the Republican Party at present to give him much mileage or leverage in what he's trying to do. I do think that they will probably make a deal on the budget because that's what they always do. They're afraid it's too politically costly not to.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think, is it true that he dressed up? He was trying to fight the new dress code. The new dress code that the Senate Schumer. Yeah, Schumer had a new dress code for Fetterman.
Yeah.
I mean, could you dress any worse than this? I mean, this is unbelievable.
Just look at Zelensky. He never wears a suit or a tie or anything like that. I mean, it's part of his image trying to look hip or something.
Trying to look hip. Now, significant. I thought this was interesting. Ted Cruz, obviously, you mentioned Ted Cruz, Jacob, and he's one of the conservative ones. He has a podcast. Obviously, he talks about a lot of things conservative in that, and I think it's called Cruz's Verdict. He says the odds are very significant that Michelle Obama will replace Biden. Now, I'm not sure if Cruz listens to Catching Up or anything like that, but we mentioned that a few weeks ago. Does he have a point? Does he? I mean,
I think it is a possibility. It is a possibility.
fascinating.
Now, right at this moment, I would say the odds are they will get rid of Biden. The odds are they will get rid of Biden.
It's starting to sound like it.
The fact that he's a senile corruptocrat doesn't bother them. The fact that he might hurt the party, that does bother them because they only care about power and money. I would say Newsom at this point has the advantage. If Michelle Obama becomes a player, that could be a game changer within the Democratic Party. Others feel Elizabeth Warren is still somebody who could take the Sanders left and unite it with the Democratic Party establishment, which is represented by the superdelegates. I don't think Hillary Clinton is going to emerge as anything. I think once again, Dick Morris is wrong. Dick Morris has been wrong so often, and Newt Gingrich has been wrong so often. I don't think those people have any credibility anymore. We shouldn't listen to them as punters. What Ted Cruz says, however, I still think deserves consideration.
It is interesting, isn't it? That and obviously Obama. We talked about the Obama's connection there. Why would they want to run Michelle Obama? I mean, I agree with it, and we've talked about it here. But what do you think they want to run?
Because it would be seen as reelecting Barack Obama.
Right.
And they're too stupid to realize, in fact, that he was a disastrous president. He left office with absolutely no legacy whatsoever. None. Obamacare was an abortion. Black families, black income after 2 terms of Obama decreased by $900. He failed his own people racially, having run as a black candidate. I mean, but none of that matters. These people don't think with their minds. They think with their emotions, and they think with their prejudices because they're stupid people. They'll vote for their own death.
Do they see her as a savior, Jacob, coming in and you know?
If that's what they're told to believe. You know, if that's what Al Sharpton tells them, if that's what Whoopi Goldberg tells them, that's what they'll believe. These are not people capable of thinking with a rational mind. Prisoners of their own racism. They're prisoners of their own stupidity. And that includes not just minorities. I'm talking about white liberals.
Which is overwhelmingly, especially women.
Yeah, don't forget, the people like Obama and then the Ketanji Brown, these think themselves as being black empowerment. They're nothing but stooges for white liberals. That's all they are. That's all they're ever going to be, or stooges for white liberals. That's all. They're not going to change the plight of the black man economically or socioeconomically. Obama didn't change it. He made it worse. And his wife will make it worse if she ever gets elected, God forbid.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine the choices? Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom. I mean, was it Pilate, Caiaphas? And
right.
That's you got, and it's not even good on the other side either. I'm not saying the Republicans are the savior or anything like that. They're just as bad. They're just not as overt.
That's correct.
Yeah, but Christians still think that that's the party that they need to back.
How after the way they all voted for C.Q. Brown to be chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, how could anybody think of the Republican Party as a viable alternative to the Democrats? They're not. Trump was a one-off non-politician. And I don't think that he's the best candidate this time. He messed up too bad, along with Mitch McConnell, in the midterm elections. He's responsible more than anybody else. Donald Trump has to take responsibility for what happened in Georgia, and with Colin Warnock getting reelected, and what happened with Fetterman getting elected in Pennsylvania. Donald Trump is more responsible than anyone else for those disasters. And to that, I would add what happened in New Hampshire.
And these are things that quickly people forget, but that just happened last year. So it's really not that long ago, just the short-term memory of a lot of Americans as it comes to show that.
You know, they said it's going to be a red wave. Where was the red wave? The Democrats gained in the Senate. It was a narrow retaking of the House. And it was the fault of Donald Trump, the RNC, and Mitch McConnell.
Oh, McConnell. Yeah. Now let's talk about one of the atrocities that's going on if you had 10,000 people coming over, let's say Russia was coming over the border in Ukraine, it would be an outrage, an invasion. You have more than that coming through southern border, northern border. These are not people coming in to work. That would be one thing. These are people coming in not only demanding to be, welfare and being taken care of, but some of them, in a lot of cases, military-aged men coming in from China, Africa, Haiti. It just looks very, very much different than it used to be, Jacob, and it's just completely done. In my opinion,
undoubtedly,
in my opinion,
Chinese Communist Party infiltrators among them. Some, undoubtedly, there are militant Muslims among them. After September 11th. But we know that Mayorkas and Biden and Obama don't care about America. They're enemies of America, in effect. We know that they're not going to do anything. The increased budget that Biden is asking for border security will not be to secure the border. It'll be to expand the processing of people who enter the country illegally.
That's right. You're right. You're 100% right. That's what the U.S. Border Patrol said. We can't secure it. We have to process this. We're under orders to process this.
Yes. See, I believe there's grounds for prosecution for treason because of the fentanyl, because of the national security risk that Biden and Mayorkas should be prosecuted for treason. I believe there are grounds to impeach Biden for treason, to criminally prosecute Mayorkas.
Now, one thing that's fascinating, and we get Jay and Davey involved in this, it's one guy that goes down there and gets more publicity, gets more attention to what happens in the southern border than even a politician. He's not a politician. It's Elon Musk. And it seems to be coming up, and we talked about him on Starlink. We talked about him with the Neuralink. We talked about him with Tesla. We talked about him with AI. Now he's at the border live streaming, and he says, we need to build a wall. And he's interviewing mayors and sheriffs, and he says, Eagle Pass is overwhelmed, and they got the train tracks. And Jacob, you know a little bit about trains and how to operate them and stuff like that. But this has been hijacked. These train rails have been hijacked by military-aged men coming into the United States, and this is where they go into Uvalde. They go from Eagle Pass to other Medina County. You've been down there, Laredo and Texas and stuff like that, down a little bit further south. But this is an invasion, they're calling it. And he says, build a wall. And he gets millions of people to watch his live stream. He's more popular than, obviously, it wouldn't be that big of a, Congress is not that popular, so it's not a big rating, but why does he have so much leverage with the American people?
One thing, he has his hand in social media with this company called X, this rebranded company called X. Secondly, Americans like success. Americans have a cultural predisposition to show a deference to people who are successful. That was a factor in why Trump got elected. Americans like success. That is another factor. But thirdly, although I know he's not a conservative, and I disagree with him on several things, including I think he lets himself be played as a stooge by China.
Yeah, he does.
I think he does. He's not looking at his long-term interest, in my opinion. I agree with him on a lot of things, as we all do. Certainly free speech, certainly the border. So because he is not a conservative, yet he is speaking out about things conservatives are concerned about to a degree, such as China and the border, he's a uniting factor. He can take people from both sides. He can take mainstream Democrats and he can take Republicans. He can even take, to a degree, conservatives, even though he's not a conservative. He's not.
They're taking that train, and it's kind of interesting because they're interviewing the sheriff, and he's sharing how in the world they're taking these trains and they're hijacking them, and there's two of them that cross over into that area. Jacob, you worked in trains before. How easy is it to take over trains like that?
It is not easy.
Yeah,
if you don't understand the signal systems, it is not easy. Driving a train is as easy as driving a car. Stopping a train, and spotting it, that is a skill. Air braking is an acquired skill. Even though it's more advanced, you have electronic air braking now, it's still a skill. You have cab signals now, but it's still a skill. It's not all that easy. But that shows me that they have people who know how to do it working for the traffickers.
That's what I was saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, it's not hard, like it says, to go a train. They're always running. All you do is pull release the brakes and pull the throttle back and it starts. But like you said, you can't get out on those main lines without having right of passage, or you could end up with a total disaster. So they're being helped.
Wow.
From the Mexican government, the cartel, everybody's getting paid somewhere, and that the country is corrupt with cartels and the drug money and fentanyl money, everything else. So I'm sure it's not that hard. Like Jacob believes there's somebody there working with him. A retired engineer would make a good one to get, And
that's really interesting.
Train master.
Yeah. That's the interesting part, because they're talking about the trains, which, we consider the fact that people go through the border. Obviously, they're walking through it. Yeah. But then the train, we've seen videos of the trains. It's train loads. And I'm thinking how did they get the trains? How did they hijack them? But obviously somebody's helping them.
They're being helped the whole way. Even as soon as an immigrant comes from Nicaragua or any other country, they're given a pass by Mexico. They have free access to all of Mexico and transportation, everything. So that allows them to go and get to the border. I don't know how America will handle 10 million illegal immigrants in 2 years when Biden is finished.
Yeah. Now, the Border Patrol is having trouble in the north, of course, from Canada, going to the south. New York City gets it from both ways, and not only from the southern border going up to New York, but also the northern border going into New York. And they're gearing up to pay $1 billion just on hotels over the next 3 years, $12 billion for the whole entire package. Adam says, no way, no New York City. We're not a sanctuary city, but he can't stop what he just started.
He said it, he can't move the goalpost.
Yeah.
But they are sending people to the border from New York with handouts in Spanish and other languages saying, don't come here. You're not going to be better off. You're better off somewhere else. Not that I think that's going to work. It's hard to convince somebody with a piece of paper saying you ain't going to be well off here when they already think of America, if they're coming for opportunity, that this is the golden land. Well, now it's more like the tarnished land.
There's two other factors that have to be taken into consideration. Again, when you look at it geopolitically, the first is the Hong Kong, Macau, Vancouver gateway. You have a gateway of people out of China, people trying to leave China because its economy is in more serious trouble.
Serious trouble, yeah.
You're looking at a default, at insolvency of the biggest real estate developers in the world. Okay, so you've got this exodus of people out of China, but the gateway into North America for China after Hong Kong was handed back by the British became Vancouver. Vancouver has a humongous Chinese population. You've got people coming from Macau and Hong Kong. If people from mainland China can get into the special administrative regions, as they call them, Hong Kong, Macau, SAR, make their way to Vancouver, where many of them have relatives, it's easy to get across the Canadian border. The Canadian border much of it is an unsecured border. Unlike the Mexican border is semi-secure. The Canadian border most of it's not secured at all, really, in comparison. Alaska, you can just walk into Alaska from Canada, no problem. What are you going to do? That is another threat. The northern border and the Chinese superhighway from Hong Kong into Vancouver. That's not being reported. Second thing that's not being reported or not being observed, is most of Europe, China, Japan, South Korea, all of them except India, have a depopulation crisis demographically. All of them. And it's going to have long-term repercussions, or even medium-term repercussions, economically for America's competitors. In Europe, Germany, Britain, China, Japan, South Korea, the United States, apart from India, has the opposite problem. India still retains a high birth rate. The United States has a high immigration rate, howbeit much of it illegal. So we have the opposite problem as our competitors. This could be a long-term advantage had those people been entering legally. Had they been given green cards, had they been processed, had they been awarded the entry rights based on education, skills, experience, capital investment, had they entered the country legally on a merit system, that could have been to our advantage. But what they're doing is importing everything from terrorists to human traffickers to prostitutes to child prostitutes to fentanyl. That is the policies of the Democratic Party.
Yep, but pretty much what they're going to do if we get a Democratic president the next election and a Congress or something, they'll just pass the law, give them all amnesty, and that should pretty much finish America.
You know, we've done that 3 times, this amnesty garbage.
Right.
Reagan did it, and it's never worked, and it's never gonna.
Oh, it just means more people will come thinking they can
Give
get
more incentive to more illegal immigration.
Yeah, you can just throw a blanket over the whole thing. One act of Congress and a signature by a president, and they're all legal.
The other thing is they want to break states like Texas with illegal immigrants and give them the right to vote so they can turn them.
Right. They'd be on the pathway to voting.
That's right.
And then they could, if they had their own Congress and Senate and a president, they could make a quicker pathway to residency and voting.
Yep, that's right.
Jacob, in your native New York, residents of Staten Island were trying to block the migrants coming into their area, into their hotels, into their homes that are being given for free by the government. Those people that were blocking and saying, no, we don't want to lose our homes, we don't want to lose our hotels, were arrested for blocking the buses from coming in. Is this the government arresting its own citizens?
I saw a clip of a 95-year-old World War II combat veteran in a wheelchair, having been given 6 weeks to get out of a nursing home.
Unbelievable.
In order to give it to somebody who has entered the country illegally, who's committed a criminal act with no right to be in America. And this 95-year-old World War II combat veteran in a wheelchair is being kicked out. And I blame Adams. No matter what he said, he was pro-illegal immigration and Refuge City. Now he can't backpedal. He did this.
He's done.
There's a good incentive for them to kick these people out because, like, if you're paying rent, okay, or if you're renting a room as a tourist, you pay a lot of taxes to the city and to the government and everything. But the government, if it's giving money, it doesn't pay taxes. So more than likely, these guys won't have to pay. The corporations' profits should go up with all these immigrants in their rooms, because you can't pay taxes to yourself.
Yeah, well, this encapsulates the whole thing because you have Democratic leaders doing this, but look at Glitch McConnell. Let's look at Glitch McConnell. He says providing assistance for Ukrainians to defeat the Russians, that's the U.S. #1 priority, according to most Republicans. So you see where the priority is. You see, it's not the people. It's not anybody here. It's not anybody in the United States that's a resident or citizen. It is those who, obviously, Ukraine, another border, no border here, let everybody in. And it's causing tremendous problems. But that's the policy of both parties, it seemingly. But here's a bigger picture for me. This is, of course, done purposely. This is Soros' no border policy. This is the global vision, open border society. And so the problem with society now in the United States is now you have citizens and residents from different races going against those who are coming in. So it's creating a class warfare, race warfare. It's destroying society because then people become angry at those who are coming in. And the ones who are coming in are angry at those who are already here. And then now you have riots, you have problems in cities, and of course, the Republicans are saying that's not our concern.
Well, what do you expect from them? But just look at what Elon Musk did. He was talking to Hispanic American members of Congress. He was talking to Hispanic American Border Patrol agents. Los Pochos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're trying to make this an ethnic racial issue when in fact Hispanic Americans are as opposed to it as anybody else is.
I know.
The media is more, but ABC, NBC, and CBS, and CNN, and the Washington Compost, the New York Slimes are quite happy to do what they always do what they do best, lie.
No, they're lying big time.
The thing with Musk is he always says he's better than a politician because he says a lot of things to a lot of people to bring them in. And many times people hear what they want to hear out of Musk. He says something for these guys, something for these guys. He's built quite a coalition and quite a powerful personality.
It is quite interesting.
Plus, he milks the government for all his
got a lot of incentives
on funding.
Yeah, he does. Now, of course, we got the problem with immigration, the broken borders. But what about the cities? Large cities, large democratic cities. Here's one example: riots in Philadelphia. After a policeman, murder charges were dropped by a judge saying there's no evidence, there's lack of evidence. Youth mobs, riots into Philadelphia. Another George Floyd incident, pretty much. Igniting another race warfare because the police was white, is white. Then the mob started, and then the BLM gets involved, right? And then some lady named Meatball enticing, I don't know. Jay, what was she saying? Everybody
needs an iPhone. Everybody needs an iPad. Everybody needs to get something to drink.
Food, man. So they told them get the food, and they robbed the liquor store.
And the Apple store. That it's not any indignation about the cop having shot this guy who was a criminal anyway. It's not about that. It's just an excuse to steal.
That's right.
That's right.
What a race.
When you have a prosecutor like Krasner, a Soros-funded prosecutor like Krasner, again, another left-wing Jew like Wolf, what do you expect when you have a pro-crime district attorney?
Yeah, the media is very quiet about this, but she's out of jail already. This one that was inciting riots, and they riot at Lululemon, Foot Locker, Apple stores, liquor stores. She's out of jail. She has a court date, but obviously the DA is going to step in, and it's definitely a possibility with a source-funded DA. So that's Philadelphia. That's here in the U.S. Let's not be guilty of just talking about the U.S. What about Sweden? Jacob, you talked about Sweden 2015, 2016. You talk about
talked about Sweden 30 years ago with their left-wing policies.
It's come home to roost.
It shows you what left-wing socialist, social democrat, as they call it, policies will do. If you want to know the way the U.S. is going, look at what's happened in Sweden and Norway. Look at what's happened in those countries in terms of the economic impact. Because it has oil and a low population, Norway has escaped a lot of it, but Sweden has not. Olof Palme, their left-wing prime minister, was assassinated. We thought that only happened in America with JFK. That shouldn't happen in Sweden. Well, wake up, Sweden. It happened in Sweden. Olof Palme, who I didn't like or respect, was shot dead on the streets of Stockholm. I've been to Malmo twice. The Muslim gangs have taken over most of that city. There are no-go areas in a Swedish city because of Muslim gangs, because of their open policy of immigration. Now they're wanting to change their laws in an emergency situation to allow to use the military to augment the police just to stop the crime. But what kind of crime? Every day there are shootings in Sweden. Who thinks gun control, well, you have gun control in Sweden, who thinks gun control is going to stop gun crime? Now here's something very interesting demographically. As I said earlier, China, Germany, Britain, Holland, Korea, Japan are all in demographic decline in terms of population and birth rate. The two countries in Europe who are not in decline because of their birth rate demographically are France and Sweden. Why? because of mass Islamic immigration. So the population of French people is declining, and the population of Swedish people are declining. They're being replaced by Islamization demographically. This is what's, and these gangs are notorious in Sweden.
Yeah, this is Daniel chapter 11 all over again.
Absolutely.
You mentioned it. Yeah. Now
I have been to Malmo twice. I've been to
Yeah.
Sweden. I've been to Stockholm a couple of times, but I've been to Malmo. It is unbelievable what's become of that city.
There's
And
a lot
it
of Jews
shows
in
you
Malmo.
the stupidity of liberalism, of being of socialism. That was a model for Obama's administration, remember?
Yeah,
He
that was
said,
the model.
we have to be benevolent like the Scandinavian countries. Well, look what's happened in the Scandinavian countries. People are getting shot dead every day in Sweden, the same as being shot dead every day in Philadelphia and Baltimore and Detroit and Chicago.
Riots, rapes, violence, Stockholm, Malmo. At one point, Malmo had a great amount of Jewish population there. Yeah. It was one of the biggest ones in Europe. Now, the Prime Minister, Ulf Christensen, emergency talks with the chief Swedish of the armed forces, the Swedish armed forces. No other country in Europe, he says, is having this kind of problems. And he blamed, and listen to this, Jacob, this is very interesting. At the heart of the issue, Ulf Christensen, at least maybe he's telling the truth. Multiculturalism doesn't work. The integration of migrants like this don't work. I mean, he might be called a racist by the Democratic Party here. Now, the government said, well, they need more sports. They need more facilities to play soccer and ping pong.
This is garbage. This is garbage. You know what? They did that in Northern Ireland. They say we can stop violence by building more sports centers and community centers. Every 2 blocks has a big swimming pool and a sports center in Belfast. Did it stop people from getting shot every day? No, it did not. This is just nonsense. This is like these morons in America who say we're going to defund the police and spend more money on social services as a way to fight crime. Well, that's not going to work. And it's not going to work in Sweden. It just does not work. Multiculturalism, all they're doing is creating Islamic ghettos. They're creating little Moroccos and little Algerias and little Syrias. They're creating little Muslim states within their own country.
Yeah, like an enclave, yeah.
The ban law in Paris. Paris is surrounded by a Islamic enclave, by a little Morocco, by a little Algeria. Paris is surrounded. It's called the banlieue. Paris is surrounded by one. Well, they had 3 weeks of riots once, and billions of dollars in damages of rioting and burning. These people will not assimilate into French culture. They will not assimilate into Swedish culture.
Jacob, you live in the UK. There's parts of the UK that are largely, I mean, it looks like Londonistan in some areas. It looks like
London, certainly Birmingham, major areas of Manchester, and Bradford is horrible. Glasgow also.
Really? Glasgow?
Dublin, Ireland. Because of the EU, they've imported all of these Muslim immigrants. More swimming in every day.
I know the birth rate of a lot of these countries is it's spiraling down. Japan, we can talk about Japan all day. China's having a big problem. South Korea is a big problem. And Europe has a big problem in terms of replacement. It's under, I think it's 1.4, 1.3, I think it is. In Germany, it's very low. But that's how they're replacing the population that they don't have because they kill their kids. They don't have any, it's less than 2 kids, obviously can have 1.5 kids or something like that. But you get the idea. It's an average. Islamic immigration is huge. The birth rate is huge.
And it's not just it's illegal Islamic immigration.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, they're having economic problems, but none bigger than China. Jacob, talk real quick about Evergrande, Country Garden. I mean, it's about to blow. Put it that way. It's about to blow. I don't mean it in an explosive terms, but in terms of the economy.
These companies are insolvent. What you're looking at now is the risk of dissolution of the companies, where people have paid fortunes for apartments that have not been built yet. Are they going to get their money back? The founder of Evergrande was arrested the day before yesterday. He was arrested.
Whoa.
And in China, he's facing potential capital execution.
Whoa. What did he do?
they're blaming him for corruption and taking bribes and causing this mess. The party will always protect the party and find somebody else to blame, even though it's the policies of the party that either caused it or allowed it to happen. But the party will protect the party. So they'll take. They've done it before. They've taken CEOs of corporations and shot them.
Wow. This is we got a comment here that I think is very important, Jacob, as people are watching and listening, and we have over 500 people watching live. This is a comment from Sweden. I know a Christian who fled to Lebanon who emphatically warned Swedes for being extremely gullible. And this is the immigration that will cause many problems from now on.
Yes.
More problems than now. Another one says, I know a Christian who fled to Iran. He warned me about Islam and how it cannot be trusted. I guess the point is Swedish people can be very gullible when it comes to Islam and multiculturalism. That's how they got it in.
Correct. What do you expect from liberals?
And yeah, this is of course the model of Obama and the Progressive Party here.
Correct.
China it's a big problem in Europe. It's a big problem in China economically. The EU's in trouble. China's in trouble. Are you logging out right now, Jacob? Are you checking out?
I'm in trouble. We just passed our checkout time, and I've got to catch a flight with David.
Get in the car. Get in the car. You'll take the questions in the car. So
if I can,
fun.
yes.
Yeah, it'll be a fun. Jacob on the road taking questions. All right, Jacob.
All right. God bless. Catch you in a bit if we can.
Yep, absolutely. Let's go back to Jay. Jay, any thoughts on the illegal immigration in the U.S., illegal immigration in Europe, the problems going on in Sweden? You and I have talked about some of this stuff, and obviously we're in Southern California. It's not too far from here. Border's not too far from here. You could see it, some of the demographics in some of the cities, but you go to Dearborn, Michigan, you go to Minnesota, the district for Omar, the congresswoman, it is literally a Muslim city. These are Muslim enclaves, but they've been around for a long time.
All around the world, there's chaos, there's turmoil, there's violence, there's looting, and the number one priority for the government is the war in Ukraine. The whole world could be burning around them. But until people start actually going to their houses and looting their houses, the problem will never really be in their minds. If people show up on the Capitol building and protest or go into the Capitol, then it's the number one priority to take care of those people. But if they go to your stores, they go to your communities and they burn and they pillage, it's not their problem. Their number one priority is somewhere where they're making money. It's the same thing with immigration. Immigration, the people in charge are making money by this immigration. And the people in the South that are sending these people are getting rid of their economic problems and importing them to the first world. This is the sad truth. They are literally, it's a circle of money where everybody's getting fed and everybody's getting their bank account just, more money rolling in for them to do whatever they want. And meanwhile, they have to use the idiot box, the media, to say, no, focus in on Russia and Ukraine. That's the most important problem of our time. No, it's the chaos next to you, which is the most important thing right now.
Yeah, it is unbelievable how they've been bamboozled. American people, Sweden and Europe, bamboozled to the degree that obviously as a Christian, you see this and you go, well, society is in really bad shape because they're godless. It is a godless society, as God told Israel that because of their godlessness, that they once were godly. And the UK and the US and Australia and some of these places were one-time godly nations in terms of South Africa, obviously, where the gospel thrived and was exported to the world. Now these nations are so ungodly. God said to Israel, I'm going to bring another nation and they're going to conquer you.
Yep.
Now, obviously, there's prophetic meaning in terms of the exile and Jeremiah's prophecies, but it's a principle that God brings judgment upon societies. Romans 1, We see the example of Samaria, the example of Judah, and ultimately you see examples of history. Look what happened to Rome.
Yep. There's two forms of multiculturalism. Okay. There's one that is ordained by God. We all have the foundation of Jesus. We all have the foundation of the Word of God. That can unite mankind. That can make brothers and sisters out of everyone. Now you have the other fake, satanic, modern secular version of the reversing of the Tower of Babel. Multiculturalism that allows people to retain their ungodly, satanic, sinful ways and to be just as valuable in their evil in a community. And that's what your government promotes.
Yeah, because multiculturalism, it also includes interfaith. Every faith is important. Every faith is equal. Every faith, you can have paganism, Christianity, Islam, which is about the same thing, every other religion, and they're equal. They're valuable. They need to be practiced and they need to be taught. But if one religion, of course, this would be Christianity, gets out of hand because they're so exclusive, then you need to nail it down. You need to hammer it away.
And those you named all very, let's call them vanilla religions. They've gone one step further. Now they want Crowleyan Satanism to be recognized as mainstream.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute. Yeah.
That's what this is all going to. They're using people like Abramovic. They're using people like celebrities to promote this Satanism amongst your kids. And we allow it.
Yeah, dime a dozen, Jay. A dime a dozen of these celebrities, musicians, movie stars, sports stars. And it's overwhelming now because these people are absolutely, they don't hide it anymore. The music, the songs, the movies, the outfits, the attire, the paraphernalia, it is occult, it is satanic, and they all promote the same thing: abortion, homosexuality. I had a person one time came to the church and was mad at me because I made the connection. Look at all the LGBT promoting the occult. Why is the occult promoting abortion and LGBT? Do you see the connection? Well, apparently a family member of his was struggling in that lifestyle and didn't really want to come to that conclusion that his, I think, granddaughter or I think it was granddaughter was being influenced by the occult, and I was open about it with them, but it didn't matter. They got upset. But you see, now you have the Satanic Temple openly telling you promotion of abortion is a right, RITE.
Oh, they're giving their children satanic Lucifer happy hour. Let's have the Satan Club in your school, in public schools. I mean, again, the people they're trying to go after are children.
Yeah,
they know that the adults have enough discernment to realize that this is evil.
Yeah,
but kids, they will go after those kids with all their might to turn them over to their persuasion.
Yeah, normalizing. Dave, I'm going to ask you something real quick, and you don't have to go into too much detail in terms of how personal it was, but as a young person, you saw this occult thing coming into young kids and affecting a lot of young kids your age at that time in Australia.
Yeah. Look, I got involved in the occult as a teen myself too. It's only got progressively worse. It's kind of like back when I was a teen, it was pretty tame compared to what it is now. It's kind of like it's mind-boggling now. So I really do. It's something I do feel very strongly about.
Yeah.
The perversion of Disney is a good example. How basically Disney infiltrated now, and that was kind of like it was kind of like considered safe, back when I was at least a teen. But now they're probably one of the number one purveyors of perversion to children, worldwide.
Yeah, and they even stifle anybody that even talks about the opposite. If you want to promote wholesome things, if you want to protect children, if you want to fight for children and education of children, and obviously,
I'll put you on a terrorist watch list.
They would.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Jacob, you're back.
There's been a total purge of conservatives and Christians from the Disney company. They've really made life difficult. They've either had to keep their faith, keep a lid on their faith, or they've basically been purged out of the company. The reason you're ending up with trash like the upcoming new Snow White film, which what I've seen of it looks like it's going to be their worst flop ever. It belongs in the garbage. It should never have been passed. But the thing is, people in the meeting rooms couldn't even speak out and disagree with it about the story elements being proposed. If you were to speak up, you would be basically bullied, harassed. Your life would become unbearable. So they just say yes to every sort of woke idea that gets pushed.
Yeah, and this is exactly right. Well, we want to thank you guys and welcome everyone who's watching live right now. And we're catching up with Jacob. We're going through the part of catching up that we can be on YouTube and Facebook Live, plus the other platforms. But we're going to be jumping over on our backstage and taking questions. So if you want to ask those questions, send them over to Rumble. Get on Rumble, send them to Davey. They'll funnel back to me, and then we'll be able to ask questions for Jacob as we're winding down the topics, and we're going to be taking questions on backstage. So you want to get off of YouTube and Facebook Live and jump over to Rumble, Memorial.tv, of course, memorialtv.org, and also Telegram and Vimeo. We're still on there. And watch the backstage and the questions that we're going to be asking Jacob. So, Jacob, we're going to be jumping over to backstage. Any final thoughts on the topics we discussed here? We're going to be taking questions only on backstage, but we talked about a lot of things, from Feinstein to Musk to the rebuilding of the wall to Malmo in Sweden to the problems of multiculturalism. Ultimately, Daniel 11 comes into mind, Daniel 2 about the clay not adhering with the iron. But summarize all this in terms of what we talked about and what your thoughts are on this.
Well, as always, we know that the constellation of world events and the way they're evolving internationally is definitely portends the return of Jesus. We know that. We know the times are coming. My concern is always the state of the church. People who are either ignoring these things or believing the word faith and ecumenical lies, or who are caught up in dominionism, kingdom now theology, or those who believe in the myth of pre-tribulationism. We need a church that understands the time in which we live. Just like the men of Issachar, they understood the times. We need to pray that the Lord will give us pastors, leaders, who are like the men of Issachar, who understand the times and will stop giving attention to false teachers and false prophets and predictors of the things that don't happen. Like just this past week, we saw what happened with J.D. Farag and others, with their dates setting again. And now J.D. Farag has had the audacity to say that Christians who are troubled by his fooling around with dates and saying he's going to be raptured by the 25th by faith of September, pays attention to a crackpot and a proven fool. Now, if that's the state of the church, when crackpots like him are tolerated, who need to be removed from the pulpit, the false teachers Jesus warned against. Well, if that's the state of the church, that's the situation. My concern primarily is for the state of the body of Christ. Yes, I love America and I love Britain, and I'm concerned for Canada and Australia and these countries and New Zealand. That's true. And South Africa, of course I am. But first and foremostly is the state of the body of Christ. And it's not in very good shape. It really isn't. This is my concern.
Yeah, absolutely, Jacob. Thank you. And we need more preachers of righteousness. And you're absolutely
Amen.
right. Preachers of righteousness.
And may God do something in Israel. You know, may there be a move of God's Spirit among the Jews and Arabs in Israel.
Lord. Please, Lord. Amen. Yeah. And we'll talk about it another time, Jacob, but you brought up a really important point. It's about Tikkun and the NAR in Israel, which is just really ravishing the churches there. And there's a lot to
dangerous people.
There's a lot to be said there. All right. Well, Jacob, we're going to jump over to backstage. Hang on there. Don't go anywhere. Well, you are moving.
Let's go.
And we're going to jump over to backstage and take some questions. So God bless you guys. Those who've been watching live, especially on YouTube and Facebook, you need to jump over to the other ones, Morial.tv. If you want to ask questions, Rumble, MorialTV.org, and the other ones. And we'll be asking Jacob. He will be on the road, but also answering these tough questions. Put him on the hot seat. And we'll see you guys in a minute. So thank you guys for watching. Jump over to Rumble and the other platforms, and we'll see you in just a couple of minutes on Backstage.
Pretty good.
It does.
Hello, and thank you for watching Morial TV. There are so many things that are happening at Morial Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan to India to Africa and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.